Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The villagers of Hakatoma had always believed the mountain was alive. They did not say this as poetry or superstition. They meant it literally. For every dawn began with the same trembling sigh, a long, low rumble rolling through the earth like a giant exhaling in its sleep. Mothers paused as they cooked rice. Fishermen stopped mid-knot as boats bobbed gently. Children grew silent, staring up at the towering silhouette of Mount Cain, a living mountain, a dreaming giant, a god of fire whose heartbeat echoed beneath the soil. That was the truth everyone accepted. Everyone except Aiko. Aiko stood at the edge of the village that morning, staring at the mountain as steam curled upward from its crater. The sunrise painted its slopes in molten gold. Most people looked at Cain with reverence, but she looked at it with familiarity, because when the mountain rumbled, she felt it inside her chest, like her heart was answering. She pressed a hand to her sternum, feeling that faint, impossible pulse. "Not again," she whispered, but it came anyway, a warm throb, deep as thunder, soft as breath, as if something beneath the volcano knew her, the rumor of the fire child. Aiko had heard the stories since she was little. There was a girl who walked too close to the crater. There was a child whose eyes glowed in the dark when the mountain stirred. There was a baby found wrapped in smoke, crying on the hottest night of the year. They called her the Fire Child. She hated that name, but she couldn't deny the truth in it. No other villager felt the mountain like she did. No one else heard the soft thudding beneath the earth, a heartbeat that matched her own. Aiko swallowed as she watched Cain breathe steam into the morning sky. Grandmother Naoko approached behind her, leaning on her carved wooden staff. "You're awake early," the old woman said. Then, narrowing her eyes, "Or, you couldn't sleep again?" Aiko didn't answer. "That heartbeat," Naoko whispered. "It called to you, didn't it?" Aiko's shoulders tensed. "I don't want it to. Wanting has nothing to do with it, child." Naoko lifted her chin, peering up at Mount Cain's smoking crown. "When something is born of fire, it cannot help but answer fire." Aiko exhaled shakily. "I'm not born of fire." The grandmother shrugged. "Then why does the mountain know your name?" Aiko froze, because she could not deny it anymore. Every rumble, every tremor, every pulse of molten heat beneath her feet, all of it felt like the same whisper. Go. The night of the red wind. The first sign arrived at sundown. A warm wind swept through the village, too warm for early spring. Children stopped chasing each other. Mothers paused mid-conversation. The elders looked to the mountain. Red embers drifted through the air, glowing softly like tiny floating stars. Not ash, not sparks, something else. Aiko stood beneath a plum tree as the embers gathered around her, swirling like they recognized her heat. Her breath hitched. A soft humming grew in her ears. Thrum, thrum, thrum. She grabbed the nearest tree trunk to steady herself. Grandmother Naoko rushed toward her. "Aiko, what do you feel?" I don't, Aiko gasped, clutching her chest. It's stronger, louder, like it's. A deep, resonant tremor shook the earth. Villagers screamed. Aiko stared up at Mount Cain as a thick plume of red smoke unfurled from the crater. But this smoke glowed, like molten blood rising into the sky. And then, a sound echoed across the valley. Not thunder, not eruption, not wind. A heartbeat, a single immense heartbeat. Boom! The plum blossoms overhead shook violently. Aiko fell to her knees. I can hear it clearer, she whispered, trembling. Grandmother, something's waking up. Naoko turned pale. Not waking, she whispered. Calling. The summoning of fire. That night, Aiko sat alone on the wooden pier at the lake's edge, feet dangling above the still water. Red reflections shimmered on its surface from the glowing clouds above Mount Cain. The heartbeat pulsed again. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Aiko pressed her hands to her ears. It didn't help. The sound came from inside her. She leaned forward, breathing shakily. Why me? She whispered into the dark. What do you want from me? A ripple formed on the lake. Then another. Aiko slowly lifted her gaze. A shape was forming in the reflection, not behind her, not in the world above. Inside the water, a glowing silhouette, tall, human-shaped, made of fire and smoke. Its outline pulsed with each beat of the mountain. Aiko's blood ran cold. The fiery silhouette raised its head, and its eyes burned like twin molten cores. Its lips moved. A whisper rose from the water, curling into her ears like heat. Come home. The fiery silhouette extended an arm. The water boiled where its fingers touched the reflection's surface. The whisper came again, clearer, deeper, impossible to ignore. Daughter of Cain, awaken. Aiko froze. Her heart slammed inside her ribs. The reflection brightened, then burst upward in a column of heated air. Aiko shielded her face from the surge of red steam. When she looked again, the fiery silhouette was gone. The lake was calm. Only the whisper remained. Awaken. Aiko clutched her chest, unable to breathe. No, I don't understand. I'm not your. But her voice broke. Because deep down in the space between fear and truth, she did understand. She had always understood. Mount Cain was not just alive. It was searching, calling, reaching for the one heartbeat tied to its own. Go. The heat that does not burn. Late that night, Aiko dreamt of fire. But it was not destructive fire. Not the kind that devours forests or melts stone. It was soft fire, warm, alive, like a gentle hand brushing her cheek. She walked through a world of swirling embers. Her footsteps did not leave prints. Her skin did not burn. In the heart of the glowing haze stood a figure, the same silhouette she'd seen in the lake's reflection. But here it was clearer, a man-shaped being, forged of magma and smoke. His outline pulsed like molten veins beneath stone. His gaze warmed her skin without hurting her. He lifted a hand. Daughter of Cain, he said again. Aiko trembled. I'm not your daughter. The fiery figure tilted its head. Your heart beats with mine. I don't know why. You were born when the mountain dreamed. The figure's voice softened into something close to sorrow. You were born from its breath. Aiko shook her head. No, I have a family, a grandmother, a village. I'm not. The figure extended a hand toward her chest. Aiko gasped as her heartbeat aligned with his, the two pulses blending into one unstoppable rhythm. She staggered back. Stop! Stop! Please! But the fire being stepped closer. When the mountain wakes, he whispered, you must be there. Aiko's blood turned to molten fear. Why? His glowing eyes softened. Because only you can calm its heart. I can't do that. You must. He lifted his hand, and her dream shattered into smoke. The call of the crater. Aiko woke with a gasp. Her room was dark. Her clothes were damp with sweat. Her heartbeat thundered. Too fast, too loud, too synchronized with the rumbling beneath the village. Another tremor shook the walls. Aiko staggered to her feet. No, no, not now. She rushed outside. The villagers were already in the streets, staring up at the glowing mountain. Fires flickered in the crater. Rivers of magma traced slow patterns down the inner walls. The sky pulsed red with heat. Grandmother Naoko approached her, gripping her arm tightly. Aiko! Aiko turned terrified. Grandmother! What's happening to the mountain? Naoko swallowed hard. It isn't the mountain you should fear. Aiko stared at her. It's you, Naoko whispered. Kane's fire has followed you since the day you were born. And now, it wants you back. Aiko's knees weakened. No! Naoko squeezed her hand. You must go, Aiko. Go where? To the crater. Aiko's breath caught. No. No, I can't. You must, Naoko said firmly. The mountain is waking, and if you don't go to it, her gaze lifted to the glowing volcano. It will come to you. A heartbeat thundered beneath the earth. Aiko felt it in her bones. Thrum. Naoko whispered, Go, child. Thrum. Before the fire becomes something the world cannot survive. Thrum. Aiko stared up at the burning mountain. Fear trembled inside her. But deeper than fear, a strange, magnetic pull answered. The heartbeat. Her heartbeat. Aiko stepped forward. Toward the mountain. Toward her fire-born fate. Aiko had walked the mountain paths many times in her life. To gather herbs with grandmother Naoko. To pick mushrooms after the summer rains. To watch cherry blossoms fall like pink snow when the warm winds passed. But tonight, those paths no longer felt familiar. Every step she took trembled beneath her feet, as if something enormous and ancient shifted deep inside the mountain. The soil shivered like skin touched by breath. The heartbeat pulsed again. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The rhythm matched her own, too perfectly to ignore. Aiko pressed her hand to her chest. Please, she whispered. Whether she was pleading with herself or with the mountain, she didn't know. The glow of the crater lit the night sky ahead, a deep, endless red, pulsing like a beacon. Aiko tightened her grip on the small lantern grandmother Naoko had shoved into her hand before she left. Keep close to the path, Naoko had warned. Cain is waking, but its dreams may still wander. Do not step where the mountain does not know you. Aiko hadn't understood then, but she did now. The mountain was alive, yes, but more importantly, it remembered DSH-born spirits. The path sloped upward through the forest, moonlight filtering through the twisted branches. Aiko paused when she heard a soft fluttering sound, like wings brushing against stone. She turned. A cluster of small glowing shapes floated between the trees. They weren't birds. They weren't insects. They were tiny spirits made of drifting ash, their forms constantly shifting like wisps of smoke bound together by faint red light. Aiko froze. Firelings, she whispered. Grandmother Naoko had once told her stories of them, harmless fragments of the mountain's dreams that wandered the forest on nights when Cain stirred. The firelings drifted closer, encircling her. Their tiny bodies glowed brighter each time the heartbeat pulsed beneath the earth. Aiko held her breath. One of the spirits floated up to her face. It hovered, studying her with glowing ember eyes. Aiko saw her lantern's reflection flicker within its molten center. The spirit lifted a tiny, hand-like wisp and touched Aiko's cheek. Warmth spread across her skin, gentle and soft. Then the fireling drifted back, as if satisfied. The others followed, forming a ring around her. Aiko staggered. They're guiding me. She took a step forward. The firelings moved with her, illuminating the path ahead with their soft, ember glow. The heartbeat grew louder. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Aiko swallowed hard. Why me? But the mountain had no words. Only a pulse. Only a memory. The sign of the first flame. When Aiko reached the ridge overlooking the crater, she nearly collapsed. Cain's crater glowed like the heart of a living beast. Rivers of magma pulsed through the rock like veins. Flames erupted in short bursts, releasing spirals of red steam. But what made her breath hitch was the mark. On the inner wall of the crater, glowing like molten gold, was a spiraling shape, a symbol she had seen only in Grandmother Naoko's oldest scrolls. The seal of the first flame. Aiko's knees weakened. That's impossible, she whispered. That seal was a myth. A mark said to be placed by ancient fire spirits to bind a volcano's soul, to keep it from waking without cause. If the seal had appeared, then something powerful was stirring within the flame. Aiko felt trembling behind her eyes. What are you trying to tell me? A gust of hot wind swept across the ridge. The firelings scattered, not in fear, but in reverence. Aiko rose slowly to her feet. That was when she saw it. At the center of the crater, surrounded by boiling magma, a glow brighter than all the others was rising. A shape, a silhouette, a being made not of ash or whisper, but of pure flame. Aiko staggered backward, the fire being from her dream. Its molten eyes turned toward her. You came, it said, voice rumbling like the earth's own breath. Aiko felt heat rush into her skull. This isn't real. It is, the being answered softly. You walk the boundary between dream and flame. You always have. Aiko shook her head. No, I'm just a girl from the village. You are more. The being stepped forward on the molten surface, the magma solidifying beneath his feet as though obeying him. Aiko stumbled away. No, don't come closer. The being paused. Are you afraid of me? Yes, she cried. The fire being lowered its head. I am sorry, it whispered. Aiko froze. Fire apologizing? Nothing in Grandmother Naoko's stories had ever described such a thing. You are trembling, the being said. You feel my heartbeat. You feel my breath. You feel the mountain's pain. That alone tells me what you are. And what is that? Aiko whispered, the fire being placed a hand over his chest, just above a core of swirling molten light. You are Cain's echo, his dream made flesh, its heart born human. Aiko felt the world tilt. No, I can't be. The fire being stepped closer. When a mountain dreams long enough, its dreams take shape. You were shaped by fire, given to the village to live as one of them. Aiko's breath came fast and sharp. Why me? Why now? The fire being's flame dimmed in sorrow. Because Cain's slumber is ending. And when a god of fire wakes, Aiko stared. The world burns. The mountains tear. A shockwave burst through the crater. Flames roared upward. The ground shook violently. Aiko fell to her knees as molten cracks shot across the ridge. The heartbeat thundered so loudly she screamed. The fire being lifted his face to the sky. It is beginning, he whispered. Aiko clenched her fists. What is? What do you want me to do? The fire being looked at her with blazing ancient eyes. Come to the heart of Cain. Descend into the first flame. Only you can soothe the mountain's fire. Aiko's chest tightened. You want me to jump into the crater? I'll die. You will live, the being said gently. Because this fire is where you were born. Aiko shook her head furiously. No, no, I can't. I won't. The ground trembled again. A deep roar rose from within the crater, a cry both furious and pained, echoing across the valley. Aiko pressed her hands over her ears, sobbing. Stop! Stop! Please stop! The fire being reached out a hand, not grabbing her, not forcing her, simply offering. Aiko, he said softly, Cain is waking in agony. If you turn away now, the mountain will tear itself apart. She followed the fire being deeper into the glowing cavern, each step taking her closer to the heart of a god. The tunnels of memory. The tunnel spiraled downward in smooth, curved walls that looked almost carved by giants. Rivers of magma flowed on either side of the path like streams of living light. Aiko swallowed. This doesn't look natural. It isn't, the fire being said. Cain formed these passages long before humans walked the valley. These are memories, solidified dreams. Aiko reached her hand toward a glowing wall. When her fingers brushed the stone, a burst of images flashed across her vision. A colossal being of fire standing at the mountain's newborn peak. A storm of glowing embers raining down on a world still forming. Rivers of molten gold spreading across the land. Villagers gathered around a glowing crater, offering bowls of rice. An eruption, but gentle like a sigh. Aiko gasped and pulled her hand away. Those were memories. Canes, the being said. Dreams kept alive in the walls. Aiko steadied her breathing. But why show them to me? Because you must understand what you are about to face. They continued walking. The path widened as they reached a cavern where spirals of glowing rock formed shapes like enormous ribs. It was as if they were walking through the chest of a sleeping titan. Aiko shivered. This place feels ancient. It is older than your village, the being said quietly. Older than any human story. Cain was born in the first dawn of the world. They walked past more molten corridors. Aiko glanced at the fire being. Then, what are you? He paused. His flames flickered, as if remembering hurt. I am Cain's first dream. Aiko blinked. That means you're a fragment of Cain's heart, given thought but not form, created to watch, to speak, to guide. His voice softened. I am what remained when Cain grew too quiet to speak for itself. Aiko looked at him differently then, not as a monster or deity, but a lonely guardian, carrying a burden larger than he understood. The chamber of breathing stone. They reached a chamber where the ceiling arched so high that the flames looked like tiny stars in a burning sky. The floor was a lake of covered magma, flowing slowly like a sleeping spirit's breath. Aiko paused at the edge. We have to cross that? Yes. But I'll sink. No, the fire being said. You will walk. Aiko frowned. How do you know? He pointed at the surface. A soft glow followed her steps even before she moved, as if anticipating her path. Because Cain welcomes you. Aiko exhaled shakily. She stepped onto the molten lake. The surface hardened beneath her feet, thin stone spreading like ice under winter skies. Flames curled around her ankles like affectionate spirits. She walked. Halfway across, the heartbeat pulsed differently, louder, deeper, heavier. Aiko stumbled. The fire being steadied her. You feel it, don't you? He said softly. Yes. It's like it's hurting. It is. What's causing it? He looked downward, toward the shimmering depths. Cain is dreaming too deeply, and the dream is becoming unstable. Aiko frowned. What does that mean? It means a god's dream is turning into a nightmare. Aiko stared at the molten depths beneath her feet. What happens if it wakes like that? He closed his eyes. Everything around it burns. The cave of the first flame. They reached a narrowing passage carved entirely from glowing stone. The air hummed with energy so strong. Aiko felt her hair rise slightly. The fire being stopped at the entrance. What's wrong? She whispered. This is the deepest place a mortal has ever walked, he said. Beyond this point lies the first flame, the core from which Cain was born. Aiko swallowed. And you want me to calm it? Yes. Aiko bit her lip. Why me? Why can't you do it? The fire being looked down. Because I am part of Cain. Because I am part of Cain. Pain is my pain. I cannot soothe what I am made from. He turned his molten eyes to hers. But you are the bridge between fire and flesh. Aiko's breath trembled. I'm scared. Good, he whispered. Only those who fear fire can respect it. He stepped aside. Go. Aiko took a breath and entered the chamber, the heart of Cain. The cavern opened into a circular chamber glowing with impossible light. At the center floated a sphere of molten fire, brighter than magma, hotter than flame, alive with swirling light. It pulsed with the same rhythm that echoed inside Aiko's chest. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Aiko felt tears fill her eyes. It's beautiful and dying, the fire being whispered behind her. Aiko stepped closer. The first flame responded, the glow softening, the heartbeat slowing. It recognized her. She extended trembling fingers toward the light. When she touched it, her mind exploded with visions. The dream. She saw the world before humans, when fire walked the earth freely, and spirits shaped the mountains by hand. She saw Cain rising from the newborn land, a great titan of molten stone. She saw the first flame forming inside its chest, like a star trapped beneath the earth. She saw Cain sleep and dream and gradually fade into silence. She saw herself, a baby wrapped in smoke, and placed gently on the edge of the village. A gift, a hope, a future. The visions faded. Aiko gasped. Her heartbeat synchronized perfectly with the first flame. The fire being approached. What did you see? He whispered. The truth, Aiko said softly. The mountain created me. Her hands trembled. It made me to speak for it. The fire being nodded. You were meant to be Cain's voice, his guide, its heart. Aiko lifted her gaze to the first flame. Its glow dimmed, as if struggling to stay alive. What do I do? She whispered. The fire being stepped beside her. You must give it what it lost. What did it lose? He looked at her with sorrow. Balance. Aiko clenched her fists. How do I give balance to a god? He placed his molten hand over hers. By giving it your heartbeat. Aiko's breath froze. What? You must link your core with Cain's. Only then will it calm. Aiko stared at the glowing sphere. If I do this, what happens to me? The fire being hesitated. You will change. How? I do not know. Aiko swallowed hard. But if I don't, Cain will wake in agony, and the world will burn until nothing remains. Silence fell. Aiko stepped closer to the first flame. Her shadow flickered. Her heartbeat thundered. Her palms warmed with living fire. She whispered, I'm ready. She placed both hands on the first flame, pulsed once, twice, then swallowed her in light. The first flame swallowed Aiko whole. There was no heat, no pain, no burning, only light, golden, swirling light that lifted her weightlessly into the air, turning her body into a silhouette adrift in a dream. Aiko felt the rhythm of the mountains surrounding her. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Her heartbeat dissolved into it, matched it, became one with it. Her limbs felt distant, as if she were floating in the place between breath and fire. Then, a voice echoed inside her mind, a voice that was not the fire being's, and not her own. Child of the first dream. Aiko's breath caught. She could not see anything, only endless gold, but she felt the presence behind the voice, vast, ancient, heavy as mountains. Why have you returned to me? Aiko trembled. I didn't return, she whispered. I was told to come. Cain is hurting. I want to help. Silence. Then the voice softened, deep as grinding stone, and warm as rising steam. You are scared. Aiko exhaled shakily. Yes, very. Good. The light shifted, swirling faster, circling her like a cyclone of molten memory. Only one who fears fire may guide it. Only one who listens may steady my breath. Aiko's heart hammered. You're Cain. I am the sleeping flame. The voice rumbled. The weight beneath your village. The dream from which you were shaped. Aiko felt tears form. Why did you make me? Silence fell again. A silence so deep she felt it press against her bones. Then, because I was lonely, Aiko's chest tightened. I don't understand. Once, fire ruled the world. I spoke and the land moved. I breathed, and seasons changed. But time grows long. I slept too deeply. And in my dreams, I forgot how to wake. Aiko's throat felt tight. You made me, so you wouldn't sleep alone? I made you so I would not disappear. Aiko shook her head. But I don't know how to help you. I don't even know what I am. You are my breath made flesh, my ember given shape, my dream with a heartbeat. The light brightened around her. But your heart has stayed silent too long. Now you must remember what you were born for. The fire that would not burn her. Light rushed through Aiko's body. She gasped as something inside her chest opened, not painfully, but like a new door cracking open in a dark hallway. Heat pulsed through her veins, turning her skin molten gold for brief flashes. Her hands glowed like metal being forged. Her hair drifted weightlessly in the heat, strands flickering like thin tongues of flame. She felt different, not human, not spirit, something in between, something balanced. She opened her eyes. The first flame hovered in front of her, pulsing like a giant, living heartbeat, and beneath it, the molten floor of Cain's heart glowed brighter than ever. The fire being stood at the edge of the chamber, his eyes widening as he saw her emerging from the flame. Aiko, he whispered, you changed. Aiko descended slowly, her feet touching the glowing stone without burning it. What am I? She asked, voice trembling. The fire being bowed his head. You are now what you were always meant to be, the heart of a sleeping god. Aiko's pulse quickened. Does that mean I'm not human anymore? You are still human, he said gently. But you are more. Aiko felt the truth of it in her bones. A strange duality humming inside her chest. Two rhythms. Two heat sources. Two selves. Human and flame. The crack in the dream. The first flame pulsed, but differently now. Aiko froze. What was that? She whispered. The fire being's expression darkened. Cain's nightmare. Aiko swallowed. I thought we were calming it. You are, he said. But something else is waking too. The chamber trembled. A crack split across the molten floor, releasing a spout of dark smoke. Aiko stepped back. What is that? The fire being's voice deepened. Cain's shadow. Aiko's breath hitched. I don't understand. Cain has a shadow? All gods do, the fire being said. But Cain's is different. The crack widened, spewing blackened embers that hissed like whispering ghosts. The heartbeat shifted again. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Aiko clutched her chest. It feels wrong, cold, like something inside Cain is twisting. Yes, the fire being gestured to the widening fissure. That is the part of Cain that was cast out. The rage, the fear, the fire that destroys instead of warms. Aiko stared at him. You mean, a god can have a nightmare so strong it takes shape? Yes. And it lives inside the mountain? Yes. Another crack spread. Dark flames spilled out. Black fire. That did not glow, but swallowed the light around it. Aiko stepped back, heart pounding. That's not normal fire. It is fire with no warmth. The fire being whispered. A flame that only consumes. A forgotten part of Cain's dream. Aiko trembled. Can it hurt us? The fire being's eyes flickered. Yes, and worse. He pointed to the brilliant first flame. It feeds on this. Aiko's blood ran cold. It feeds on Cain's heart? It wants to replace it. The mountain rumbled violently. Aiko steadied herself. What do we do? You must keep feeding your heartbeat into the first flame, the being said. Your presence strengthens Cain's true core. Aiko hesitated. But what about the shadow? The fire being turned toward the growing darkness. I will hold it back. Aiko's eyes widened. Alone? You can't. I must. But you said you're part of Cain. Doesn't that mean the shadow can hurt you even worse? He didn't answer. The silence was his answer. Aiko stepped toward him. You'll die. Maybe, he said softly. But if I do nothing, everything dies. Aiko shook her head, tears forming. No, I'm not letting you do that alone. You have no choice, he said gently. Your place is with the first flame. He turned toward the darkness. Aiko reached for him, but a surge of black fire erupted from the fissure. A monstrous shape began to form, twisted, shadowy, pulsing with cold fire, a crawling nightmare of a god. The fire being whispered without turning back. Remember who you are now, Aiko. You are the pulse Cain lost. Aiko's heart hammered. The first flame pulsed weakly. The shadow roared. She stood between both. And she whispered, I won't let either of you fall. She placed both hands on the first flame again. And the chamber exploded with golden light. The golden light around Aiko thinned, not fading but reshaping, wrapping itself around her body like a living mantle. Her heartbeat synchronized with the first flame. Thrum, 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 steady, strong, certain. The chamber vibrated with each pulse. But beneath the harmony, another rhythm throbbed, cold, jagged, wrong. The shadow's heartbeat. It echoed through the cracks in Cain's core, a fragmented rhythm trying to overpower the true flame. The fire being stood between the widening fissure and Iko, his molten form blazing brighter with each moment. Iko, he said sharply, without turning, do not stop. If the first flame falters, the shadow will consume this mountain whole. Iko pressed her palms harder against the glowing core. I'm trying. Her breath hitched as the heartbeat surged through her. It's getting stronger. So must you, he answered. Iko grimaced. But I don't know how. The fire being's voice softened. Just slightly. You do. You just haven't trusted yourself yet. The shadow that breathed cold. A crack tore open in the molten floor, vomiting a column of black fire. It hit the chamber ceiling and splashed downward, coiling like a serpent made of darkness. Iko gasped. The fire being braced himself. The shadow lunged. It did not move like smoke, nor like flame. It moved like a living creature, jerking in unnatural motions, its form shifting each second. A claw, tendril, a mouth, a void. The fire being raised both arms. A barrier of molten gold erupted between them. The shadow struck. The impact shook Cain's heart. Iko cried out as the first flame quivered in her grasp. Her pulse stuttered. The fire being staggered from the force. Black fire hissed across his molten chest, leaving marks that dimmed his glow. Iko gasped. You're hurt. It is nothing. You're lying. It is nothing, he repeated, but his cracked voice betrayed him. A second tendril of darkness surged from the fissure, aimed straight at Iko. The fire being threw himself in front of it. The strike landed. He crashed to the ground, his molten form flickering like a candle in dying wind. No! Iko cried. She tore one hand from the first flame, reaching toward him, but the flame pulsed violently, pulling her hand back with its gravity. She couldn't leave it. She couldn't move. Tears streamed down her face. Please, get up. The fire being pushed himself to his knees, his entire form trembling. Iko, he whispered, you must not stop. If the first flame dies, I die. Cain dies. Everything dies. Iko sobbed. But I can't just watch you. Yes, he said, with the last embers of his strength. Watch me, and burn brighter. The memory of the first dawn. Iko pressed both hands back onto the first flame. The shadow's cold fire crept closer, curling around the fire being's legs, coiling toward her like living night. Iko's heartbeat raced. I need more strength, she whispered. I don't have enough. A warm gust swept across her face. Not from the chamber. Not from the fire being. From within the first flame. It was comforting, almost gentle. Then a familiar voice. Do not forget what you saw. Cain's voice. Aiko's eyes widened as visions flashed again. Cain roaming the newborn earth. Villagers praying beneath the volcano. A baby wrapped in smoke, placed at the village edge. A heartbeat connecting two worlds. Herself, small, crying, held by glowing hands. Aiko gasped. I'm your dream, your child, your voice. The first flame pulsed in answer. She understood. The flame was not asking for her strength. It was asking for her recognition. The moment she accepted what she truly was, her power would unlock. She placed her forehead against the glowing core. Her whisper was steady. I am Aiko, born of fire and flesh, daughter of Cain, the heartbeat that was lost. And I'm done being afraid. The chamber shuddered. The first flame roared. Aiko's body ignited, not in destruction, but in awakening. Her hair lifted into the air like rising fire. Her hands glowed white-hot, her veins lit with molten gold. She stood, a human no longer trembling, but blazing, the first light of the true air. The shadow lurched toward her again. This time, Aiko turned her hand toward it. A wave of golden fire erupted from her palm. Not hot, not burning. Law, balance, origin. The shadow recoiled violently, screeching. Aiko stepped forward, her flames swirling around her like a living aura. You're Cain's fear, she whispered. But fear doesn't get to rule. The shadow writhed furiously. The fire being stared at her in disbelief. Aiko, what have you become? She offered him a trembling smile. Me. Finally. The shadow lunged again. Aiko slammed her hand to the floor, and a shockwave of golden emberlight exploded outward. The fissure sealed halfway. The shadow's form collapsed inward. The chamber lit with blinding radiance. The fire being shielded his face. Aiko stepped between him and the darkness, eyes blazing with golden-orange light. You're not Cain, she whispered. You're what Cain couldn't face. But I can face you. The shadow let out a roar, a sound of agony, rage, and ancient loneliness. Aiko lifted both hands. Golden fire spiraled around her. Her heartbeat roared inside her skull. Thrum, thrum, thrum. She screamed and released all of it. A beam of pure, burning heartbeat erupted from her chest, slamming into the shadow. The creature cracked, splitting apart like shattered stone. Dark fire spilled in every direction. Aiko held her stance, pushing harder, flames swirling from her feet up her arms. The shadow shrieked and shattered into a storm of falling black embers. Silence fell. Aiko collapsed forward, catching herself on trembling hands. Her breath dragged painfully, the fire being crawled to her side. Aiko! I'm okay, she whispered. He touched her shoulder. You saved us both. Aiko closed her eyes. I'm not done yet. The chamber rumbled. The first flame flickered violently, still unstable, still wounded. Aiko forced herself to her feet. She turned toward the first flame, eyes glowing faintly, part of Cain's nightmare is gone, she breathed. But the real battle is still ahead. She placed her hands on the core again. And I'm not leaving this mountain until I wake it. Golden light engulfed the chamber as Aiko gave her heartbeat to a sleeping god. Golden light poured from Aiko's hands, filling the chamber with a radiance so bright it seemed to wash the darkness from the world. But the first flame still flickered, weak, wounded, struggling to hold shape. Aiko's breath shook as she pressed both palms firmly against its surface. "Come on, stay with me," she whispered. "You've slept long enough. Let me help you wake." The flame pulsed once, then dimmed again, as if pulled downward by an unseen weight. The fire being staggered toward her, still scorched by the shadow's earlier strikes. "Aiko," he rasped, "you must not hold back. The first flame needs all of you, every part." She trembled. "I'm giving everything I have." "No." He placed a molten hand over her heart. "Not everything. There is still fear, still doubt, still the part of you that wants to remain human." Aiko closed her eyes. Her voice cracked. "I am human." "Yes," the fire being said softly. "And no, that is why you can do what neither God nor mortal can." He lifted her chin gently. "You stand between worlds, so choose which world you want to save." Aiko turned back to the first flame. The core pulsed erratically, like a heartbeat fighting to stay alive. She took a deep breath. "Cain," she whispered, her voice steadying. "If you can hear me, it's time. Wake up." The first flame quivered. A soft reply echoed through the chamber. "Show me how." Aiko swallowed. And then she did something she had feared since the moment she had stepped into the crater. She opened her heart completely, not metaphorically, literally. Aiko placed both hands over her chest, feeling the molten rhythm within her bones. "I'm giving you my heartbeat," she whispered. "All of it." The fire being jerked forward. "Aiko, wait!" But it was too late. The heart that became two. Aiko pressed her chest against the first flame. Golden light erupted outward like a star being born. Her heartbeat tore itself free, not leaving her body entirely, but splitting, half flesh, half fire, half human, half divine. The chamber shook. The molten floor cracked. The ceiling rained sparks. The first flame roared awake, its light swirling in spirals of gold and red. Aiko staggered, her body flickering between form and flame. "This hurts," she gasped, the fire being reached for her. "Your heart wasn't meant to be divided." She smiled weakly. Neither was Cain's. The first flame pulsed brighter and brighter, gaining strength from the fragment Aiko had given. Its voice echoed through the chamber, shaking the walls. "Daughter, you are the rhythm I lost." Aiko leaned against the core. "And you're the fire I never understood." The two pulses, hers and Cain's, beat together, slowly, steadily, until they synchronized into a single living rhythm. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The entire mountain trembled. The shadows returned, But the shadow was not gone. Black embers, once scattered, began gathering again. In the cracks of the chamber floor, Aiko's eyes widened. No, I destroyed it. Nightmares don't vanish so easily. The fire being warned. They cling to the god that dreamed them. A monstrous shape rose again. Smaller, weaker, but twisted by desperation. It lunged toward the first flame. Aiko stepped in front of it, roaring. No! Her voice shook the molten walls. The shadow collided with her and shattered against her golden fire. Aiko stood firm. You can come back 1,000 times, she whispered, her voice low, burning, certain. And I'll destroy you 1,000 more. The shadow shrieked. But Aiko extended her hand, palm glowing white-hot. This ends now. She inhaled, and drew the shadow's cold fire into herself. The chamber howled with darkness, but Aiko's flame burned through it, purifying it, dissolving it, into nothing. When she exhaled, black smoke escaped her lips, and vanished like ash in sunlight. The shadow was gone, truly gone. The awakening of Cain. The first flame swelled, bigger than ever before, filling the chamber with molten light. The fire being knelt. Aiko shielded her eyes. The core pulsed once. Thrum. The chamber split open. Molten stone peeled away like petals of a glowing flower. A head formed. A chest. Arms sculpted from fire and stone. Eyes like two blazing suns. Cain, the ancient god, was awake. Aiko fell to her knees, the fire being bowed, trembling. Cain's enormous, flame-sculpted form leaned down, casting the entire cavern in golden warmth. Daughter of my dream, Cain rumbled, his voice shaking the mountain. You restored what time forgot. Aiko's breath trembled. I only gave back what was always yours. Cain extended a hand, larger than a house, radiant and molten. Aiko stepped into the palm. She felt no heat, only warmth, deep and ancient. Cain lifted her toward his fiery face. Half of your heart is mine now, he said gently, and half remains yours. What will you do with it? Aiko looked toward the world above, toward the village, her grandmother, the life she knew. She looked at Cain, her origin, her fire, her other half. Then she smiled softly. I'll live between both worlds, as your voice, and as their guardian. Cain nodded. Then the balance of fire is restored. The return to the world above. The mountain rumbled, but not with destruction, with rebirth. The molten walls split open, forming a path upward. Aiko walked toward the surface, the fire being at her side, his form restored and glowing proudly. As she stepped out of the crater, the sky burst into orange dawn. The village below stirred in awe. Mount Cain, once feared for its rage, now glowed like a lantern of life. Cherry blossoms drifted in warm wind. Aiko touched her chest, feeling the dual rhythm within. Human, fire, one. The fire being bowed to her. You changed everything. No, Aiko said softly. We changed it together. She looked up at Mount Cain. For the first time, it did not rumble with pain. It breathed, peacefully, slowly, peacefully, slowly, alive. Echo smiled. Welcome back, Cain. The wind answered with a warm, gentle sigh, and with the fire of a reborn God glowing behind her, Echo walked toward a future where mountains dream and hearts burn without fear. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.